Breaking news on the Fan. Diana Russini of The Athletic. Adam Schefter has got it now. Kevin Stefanski has been let go by the Cleveland Browns. Diana Russini tweeting that Cleveland moves on from the two-time coach of the year who led the franchise to the playoffs twice in his tenure and the only team's only playoff win since 2000. Kevin Stefanski has been fired by the Cleveland Browns as of right now.
The Cleveland Browns just got caught in the most embarrassing way possible. It came from the most unlikely place. Shedeur Sanders, a rookie quarterback who is supposed to be keeping his head down and learning the NFL game, just walked into a press conference and dropped truth bombs that have everyone in the league talking. The media thought they could catch Sanders off guard because Mike McDaniel is reportedly going to be the next head coach. Kevin Stefanski is coaching on borrowed time, and the front office is already making plans for next season. They thought they could get him to talk about the coaching mess, his future, or the problems that were tearing the Browns apart from the inside. What happened instead was a masterclass in dealing with the media that protected his current coaches while also showing how broken this organization really is. People in the NFL are already talking about the quotes that came out of this press conference. And when you hear exactly what Sanders said and how he said it, you'll see why this moment could change not only his first season, but also the future of the Cleveland Browns. Let me set the scene for you, because the background is very important to understanding why this press conference is so important. The Browns organization is falling apart right now. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach who picked Sanders, is basically a dead man walking. All the insiders, from Ian Rappaport to Adam Schefter, say that the Browns have already made their choice. They are going to fire Stefanski and all of his staff as soon as the season is over. Mike McDaniel, the Miami Dolphins offensive coordinator, is being talked about as a possible replacement. He turned Tua Tagovailoa from a bust into a real NFL starter and made one of the league's most explosive offenses. It makes sense on paper. McDaniel is a genius on offense and a master of scheme. He might be able to get Sanders to use his skills in ways that Stefanski's more conservative system never could. But this is where things get messy. Sanders is a rookie quarterback who has only started a few games. He's just starting to learn Stefanski's system, get to know his receivers, and figure out how to read NFL defenses and process information quickly. And now that he's starting to get the hang of things, the whole coaching staff that drafted him and has been working with him is about to get fired.
Yeah, I'll say I'm truly thankful. I'm thankful that I was able to come here. I'm thankful that I do have a relationship with all the coaches. And I'm thankful that just being evolving from day one, evolving from being a hungry dog to now, like, it's exciting, and sometimes I think about those days, so I don't take anything for granted. I think overall the communication with the coaches and everything been really good, and I'm just thankful to just be here in general.
He'll have to learn a whole new offensive system, as well as new words, ideas, and coaching styles. That kind of instability can be very bad for a young quarterback who is trying to make a name for himself in this league. Some quarterbacks never get over the kind of chaos that happens in organizations when they're young. After the last game, the media sits Sanders down and asks him a bunch of tricky questions that are meant to get headlines. They want him to say bad things about Stefanski. They want him to show how excited he is that McDaniel might be coming in. They want him to cause trouble and division that they can put on every NFL website and debate show. Instead, they got something much more interesting and revealing. Sanders didn't answer any of their loaded questions, but by refusing to do so, he showed more about how messed up the Browns organization is than any criticism ever could. The first question they asked him was simple but risky. They asked him if he thinks he has done enough in his starts to show that he is a franchise quarterback, not just in Cleveland, but in the whole league. The question is meant to make Sanders sound either arrogant if he says yes, or insecure if he says no. But listen to how smartly Sanders made his way through this minefield. He said, and these are his exact words, that he can't care about what other people think of him or how they see him. He said that the teams they play against definitely respect him when it comes to passing. But then he said this important thing. He said he can't be responsible for what other people do. Take a moment to think about what Sanders just did. He made a clear distinction between how he plays on the field and what decisions are made about his future by the organization. He means that he will only be able to control his preparation and his play. But it's up to the front office what they want to do with the coaching staff, the roster, and him. It's a veteran-level answer from a rookie, and it shows that they are very emotionally intelligent and aware of them. Sanders knows that it doesn't matter if Mike McDaniel comes in and wants to start over with a new quarterback. or if the owners decide to blow everything up and tank for draft picks. None of that has anything to do with whether Sanders played well or showed franchise quarterback potential. He's keeping himself safe from a story he can't change. But the media didn't like that answer. They kept going. They asked about his progress, and if the Browns coaches have been telling him good things about the progress he's making. Things got really interesting here because Sanders' answer said a lot without saying it. He said twice, for emphasis, that they do everything in-house. Think about why a new person would need to say that phrase again. Sanders doesn't want to talk about what's going on behind closed doors in Cleveland. When a player keeps saying they want to keep things private, it usually means there's a lot of disagreement or dysfunction that they've been told not to talk about in public. The Browns are clearly trying to fix things by telling their players to stick together, even though things are falling apart behind the scenes. Because Sanders is a smart and professional person, he is following that order. But by doing this, he is actually showing that there are things that should be kept secret, conversations that should be kept private, and problems that should be kept hidden. If everything was going well inside the organization, and the coaches and players were all on the same page with a clear vision for the future, there would be no need to keep saying to keep things in-house. The only time you need to use that phrase is when you want to keep something dirty from getting out. Then the reporter asked about how often the offense worked. And this is where Sanders' answer became almost too honest to bear. They said that no matter who has been playing quarterback for the Browns this season, every game has had at least one or two good offensive series, and then nothing else. They asked Sanders straight out what is stopping the offense from being more consistent. He said he doesn't know, and it's up to everyone else to guess what they think. He doesn't believe that's something he can think about. Now let's be very clear about what just happened. Sanders knows exactly what's stopping the offense from being consistent. He's the one who throws the ball. He goes to every meeting and watches every film and runs every play. He knows exactly where things are going wrong, whether it's the play calling, the execution, the scheme, the players, or anything else. But he's not going to trash his coaches on camera, especially since they might be out of work in 3 weeks. That's more than just loyalty. It's also a way to protect yourself strategically. If Sanders starts to publicly criticize the offensive scheme or coaching decisions, it will cause problems in the locker room and make him look like a hard player to coach. No new coach wants to take over a quarterback who has a history of blaming others. So Sanders deflected, but that deflection is actually worse for the current Browns regime than any criticism would have been. What he's really saying is that the offensive problems are so clear, basic and systemic, that he doesn't even need to explain them. Everyone can see it, everyone is aware of it. He can't say anything that isn't already clear from watching the games. That's a terrible answer that backs up the worst fears about Stefanski's time. This is where the Mike McDaniel case becomes very important for understanding Sanders' point of view. If McDaniel does take over, he'll have a very different way of thinking about offense. People were calling Tua a bust and a possible backup, but this man made him a Pro Bowl quarterback. He built an offense around motion, misdirection, quick hitting plays, and giving playmakers room to work. It's the exact opposite of Stefanski's more traditional pro style. McDaniel's system could really open up parts of Sanders' game that Cleveland's current offense doesn't use. But from Sanders' point of view, that's scary too. He spent months learning this system, making these connections, and getting to know his teammates. Just as he was starting to figure it out, starting to guess how defenses would react, and starting to understand what his coaches wanted from him, everything was about to change. He'll have to start over, with a coach who might have very different ideas about what kind of quarterback Sanders should be. Some coaches love that kind of challenge and change. Some people never get over having the rug pulled out from under them so early in their life. Then came the most shocking moment of the whole press conference, the conversation that will shape how people remember this media session. The reporter asked Sanders about Kevin Stefanski and all the outside noise and rumors about him possibly being fired. They also asked how the team feels about their head coach with all this pressure. Sanders' answer was both supportive of his current coach and brutally honest about the chaos in the organization. He said that they don't pay attention to what others say about Stefanski being their coach. They still respect him as much as they did in week 1. Things that every locker room coach says to help their players. But then Sanders said something that cut through all the business talk and showed how bad things really were. He said, and this is the quote that is going viral on social media, that half of them don't know if they'll be here next year. Half of the players on the team are playing for their jobs and don't know if they'll be part of what's next. They don't pay much attention to rumors about coaches or what the media says, because they are too busy trying to make sure their own futures are safe. They play for the team, their coaches, and the names on the front and back of their jerseys, not for the stories that the media wants to tell. In NFL press conferences, that kind of honesty is very rare. From the first day of training, players are taught to speak in platitudes and avoid saying anything that could be seen as controversial in order to protect the organization at all costs. Sanders did protect the group by not naming names, but he also showed everyone the problems and lack of trust that are ruining that locker room. When half of your players don't know if they'll have jobs in 3 months, and your coaches are openly looking for new ones. When your front office has clearly lost faith in the current government, how are you supposed to make something last? How do you help young people get better? How do you make a culture that wins championships? You can't do that. And Sanders just told everyone that without actually saying it. The Browns are a team that is totally messed up. Everyone in that building knows it. They're just going through the motions to stay alive until the purge happens, and they can all see what their futures hold. That's not a place where young quarterbacks can become stars. Teams don't do better than expected and surprise people in that kind of setting. That's a place where everyone is afraid and only cares about themselves. They're not playing to win. They're playing not to get cut. When the reporter asked Sanders if it's easy to ignore the noise from outside, or if it's something he's had to learn, his answer gave even more information about his mindset and background. He said that since he was a kid, people have been putting pressure and attention on him. So this is just another year of it. It doesn't change anything about how he does things. Think about what Sanders is saying there. Being Deion Sanders' son means that everyone has watched your whole life. Strangers with opinions have looked at and talked about every youth football game, every high school performance, every college choice, and every success and failure. Most people would break down under that kind of stress for the rest of their lives. When everyone is watching, most people would feel anxious, angry, or unable to do their job. Sanders has somehow come up with the opposite reaction. He has taken the pressure in so deeply that it no longer affects his work. It's just background noise that has always been there, and will always be there. That's a really important mental quality for an NFL quarterback, especially one who plays in a big city with high hectic. If Sanders can keep that attitude and keep putting outside stress aside and focusing on his own process, he has the right mental makeup to do well at this level, no matter what system he's in or who the coach is. Sanders also talked about how he has grown over the course of the season, saying that he has gotten better at going through progressions, getting to checkdowns, and taking the right risks. That's the kind of self-awareness you want in a young quarterback. He isn't saying he's perfect or making excuses for his mistakes. He is naming specific things that need to get better and explaining how he is working on them. When asked what he needed to work on the most, Sanders said it was situations where there was no play available. He can't get out of the pocket, so he has to do something with the ball. That's a grown-up way to look at himself that shows he knows exactly what young quarterbacks do wrong. When the structure falls apart and the quarterback has to make something up, those are called broken play situations. That's where mistakes happen and careers go off track. Sanders knows that this is his next step in development, which shows that he is already thinking like a franchise quarterback. And this is where the Mike McDaniel factor gets interesting again. McDaniel's offense is set up so that the quarterback almost never has to deal with those kinds of situations. Every play has more than one answer, more than one way to move the chains, and more than one way to score. The scheme does a lot of the hard work, so the quarterback's job is to carry out the plan instead of coming up with something out of nothing. If McDaniel takes over the Browns, Sanders might do better than he has been able to under Stefanski. McDaniel's system could hide some of Sanders' current flaws while bringing out his strengths, like being able to quickly process information, throw accurate passes to the short and intermediate areas, and follow the game plan. The question is if Sanders wants that or if he would rather keep learning the system he's already spent months learning. There is no right answer. There are just different ways of thinking about how to develop young quarterbacks. What's interesting is that Sanders seems to really like Stefanski and the current coaching staff, even though things aren't going well. When Sanders was asked what Stefanski had meant to his growth, he got very emotional. He said he's very grateful that he was able to come to Cleveland, that he's built relationships with all the coaches, and that he's grown from being a hungry rookie to where he is now. He said he doesn't take anything for granted, and that he sometimes thinks back to when he first started and gets excited about how far he's come. That's not fake emotion for the cameras. That's real thanks from someone who values what he's learned, even when things aren't going well. Sanders also said that he has been able to talk to the coaches a lot and that he is just happy to be there. That makes things interesting, because the media says that Stefanski let Sanders down, that the offense is broken, and that they need McDaniel to come save the day. But Sanders himself says that he values what Stefanski has taught him and is grateful for how much he has grown. So who is correct? Does the media have it right that Sanders needs help getting out of a bad coaching situation? Or is Sanders right that he's learning and growing, even though the team isn't doing well? The truth is probably not on either side. Stefanski might be a good coach for quarterbacks, but he might not be the right head coach for this team right now. Even though the team isn't doing well, Sanders may be growing as a person. Both of those things can be true at the same time. The NFL doesn't care about individual growth unless it leads to team success. The Browns didn't pick Sanders with the idea that he would get better 5 years from now with a different coach. They picked him to be their franchise quarterback, and right away he leads them to the playoffs and a chance to win. One telling moment was when they asked Sanders how his father, Deion, reacted to something bad he did during the game. Sanders said that no father likes it when their child does something bad. That's how dads are. He also said that he talks to his dad a lot after games and that their relationship is strong. That detail is important because it shows that Sanders has a strong support system of people who have been through what he's going through. Deion was a superstar player who had to deal with a lot of media attention, high expectations, and problems within the organization during his career. Sanders is lucky to have access to that wisdom and experience as he deals with this situation. There was also an interesting exchange in which Scott Petra, a reporter who has been covering the Browns for 25 years, asked Sanders if he thinks he has done enough to prove he is a franchise quarterback. Media critics say that Petra was really trying to help Sanders by asking him an alley-oop question, which is a question with an obvious answer that lets the player speak for himself. But Sanders didn't want. The analyst said he blocked the alley-oop and gave a more measured, diplomatic answer instead. Why would Sanders turn down the chance to say with confidence that he's a franchise quarterback? It's possible that he doesn't want to sound arrogant, because he's humble. Maybe he knows the tape will speak for itself and doesn't need to make a public case. Perhaps he knows that making those statements as a rookie, with few starts, could backfire if things don't go well in the future. Or maybe he really doesn't know what his future holds in Cleveland and doesn't want to make promises that could make him look stupid if he plays somewhere else next season. A young quarterback could say no to that kind of easy question for any of those reasons. The analyst who was critical of this exchange said that it shows Sanders doesn't know how to deal with the media, but I would say the opposite. Sanders knows that saying you're a franchise quarterback after only a few starts can be used against you later, which shows how well he knows how to deal with the media. He is still confident in his abilities, but he is protecting himself from future criticism. That's smart public relations management from someone who is supposed to be clueless about these things. Sanders also kept bringing up something that should worry the Browns organization during the whole press conference. He talked about questions that divide the team, make teammates or coaches fight each other, and don't help in any situation. He specifically criticized the media for asking questions that were meant to divide people instead of bring them together. He said that if the Browns want to change the team and help, people need to speak life instead of asking questions that divide the locker room. That's Sanders saying exactly what's going on. The media is trying to use the problems to make stories. They are asking players questions that are meant to make them criticize their coaches or start a fight. And Sanders won't play in that game, even though it would probably be easier for him to blame Stefanski and make himself look like a victim of bad coaching who needs Mike McDaniel to save him. Sanders is trying to keep the team together and support his current coaches, even though things are falling apart around them. That's a sign of maturity and leadership beyond his years. Now the question is, what will happen next for both the Browns and Shedeur Sanders? If Mike McDaniel does take over, which all reports say will happen soon after the season ends, will he stick with Sanders as his franchise quarterback, or will he want to bring in his own guy, someone he can shape from the ground up in his system? And if he does choose Sanders, will their ideas be able to work together? Can Sanders do well in McDaniel's fast-paced, motion-heavy offense like Tua has in Miami? If Sanders becomes a star in Cleveland or just another talented quarterback whose growth was stunted by coaching changes and organizational chaos, will depend on the answers to those questions. We've seen this happen before with other teams and young quarterbacks. The Browns can't afford to mess this up, because if Sanders leaves Cleveland and becomes a Pro Bowler somewhere else with stable coaching, it will haunt this team for the next 10 years. They've already wasted a lot of time and a lot of high draft picks on the quarterback spot. Sanders could be their best chance in a generation to finally fix that problem.